I created this water bottle, agonizing over every tiny little detail. And finally, after years of refinements, it's passed all of my tests. But the real test, the only one that matters, is done by you. To really know if this water bottle will sell, I'll need to get this into the hands of at least 10 real people. The only problem with that is, this cost me $300 to make. And even if I had $3 to drop on water bottle samples, which I don't, the factories that these water bottles come from uses plastics that gives the water a nice, scrumptious chemical aftertaste. So giving these bottles out was not gonna work. Not for my bank account, not for anyone's taste buds, and not for anybody's health. A solution, although not a very appealing solution, was right in front of me. Building the products myself, I'd use every technique and tool that I've learned over the course of this entire journey. I'd also have 100% certainty over the materials used, ensuring their safety. Not to mention, building the products myself would save me quite a large chunk of change. But there's a big issue. Basements aren't the most professional places. I'm trying to build a real business here. Perfect professional products. Not something strung together in a basement, and especially not something strung together by me. That's not really me. I'm not one of those maker guys. I pretend I'm more like the idea guy, you know? So why would I think I could succeed without having like a technical background and that sort of thing? Hey, you should just stop worrying and go for it. So I went for it, building the products myself in a basement. You might have noticed though that a couple of those clips that you just watched were filmed quite some time ago. There have been some issues. There's lots of different types of 3D printer filament, but are any of them food safe? One quick Google search gave me some great news. PLA is one of the most common and easy to use 3D printer filaments. So I printed out a part in PLA and conducted some very scientific tests. Yes, I actually licked a part to make sure it didn't taste like chemicals. And it did. To make sure I wasn't crazy, I dropped the part in a bottle of water and put it in the sun for a few hours before drinking the water. Yep, it definitely tastes like chemicals. Going back to the internet and reading just past the first sentence, I of course learned that it's not that simple, and there are many other factors. So started my guess and check journey, buying filaments and conducting tests. Even certified food-grade materials can leach food-safe contaminants into the water, which affects the taste. Now my theory on why this is such an annoying, painful process is that no company wants to admit that their filament leaches contaminants into liquid. But no company wants to claim that they don't leach in case it does, and then they're gonna get a whole bunch of lawsuits. Especially because the filament isn't the only factor in this whole food safety rodeo. Meet my 3D printer Betsy. Betsy has a brass nozzle. Brass contains lead, the poisonous metal kind of lead. I bought her some stainless steel nozzles to make her food safe, but she chose this time to have a mental and physical breakdown and completely stop working. I probably overworked her, but it was her time to go. Now enter Brian, my fancy new 3D printer. Brian comes with a stainless steel nozzle, and after lots and lots of trial and error, half a dozen failed filaments, hours of chatting with ChatGPT, and countless tests with Brian, I finally found the perfect food-safe recipe. Yeah, so that took me a while to figure out. And plus, there were a bunch of other hurdles too, like upgrading printer hardware and tweaking dozens of settings to create a perfect, high-resolution part with close to 2,000 individually printed layers. Finding the perfect spring for clicking, finding the perfect nail to hold in the handle, and make sure the handle isn't too loose and not flopping around everywhere. But none of those hurdles come even close to the silicone O-rings. Literally the one thing a water bottle is supposed to do is not leak. And that's been a problem for me in the past. And it all comes down to these little silicone O-rings. Every single dimension has to be perfect. It's all about balance. If the rings are too thick, then the water bottle won't click properly. If they're too thin, then it'll leak. Any tiny imperfection can cause problems. I spent months going through different types of silicone, handcrafting different molds, and varying ring sizes. The biggest issue I have is ensuring that no bubbles stay in the silicone during the O-ring making process. This mold, in combination with my homemade degassing chamber, can defeat those troublesome bubbles. The sub-atmospheric pressure of the vacuum chamber induces deabsorption of the gases from the silicone by reducing gas solubility, promoting bubble inoculation and ascent. This removal of gaseous inclusions is crucial for enhancing the silicone's mechanical and optical properties. Yes, it was all very complicated and difficult to figure out. And the reason why is I had to use my hands for part of this process, not just a machine that doesn't make mistakes. And every time I made a mistake, I would have to invest more time to test a possible solution that might not even work. That's actually the hardest part of this whole process, is the time that I've invested into this. I constantly find myself wishing that I wish I had more time. It seems like it's going so fast. I see my friends and my peers get promotions, advancements, raises in their career. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here in a basement worried that my O-ring thickness is 1/4 of a millimeter too much. Like at some point, it does drive you a little crazy. And I've never thought about quitting, but I could see why people do. See why this is hard. But I've got just enough screws loose in my head to keep pushing and see this thing through. And even if this thing blows up and nothing ever comes of it, I never am able to make a working water bottle that doesn't leak. The knowledge and passion that I've felt and obtained along this journey, I think, is more valuable than anything I could have felt in kind of a structured, rigid corporate environment for me. Finally. You have no idea how many times this water bottle has failed that test. But I gotta go get back to work making 9 more of these to give out to all you guys. But, I do want to say a few things before I go. It was much harder than I thought it would be, but I learned a lot more than I thought I would. And if any of you want to try something, I'd encourage you to just start, try. You'd be amazed what you can pull off if you just keep trying and don't quit.